Good evening. Okay. Is this on? Hello. Good evening. I'm Steve Riggio, Chief Operating Officer of Barnes & Noble, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to what will surely be a very lively evening. You know, it's always a pleasure to introduce new writers, as we often do here at Barnes & Noble. Just a month ago, I was introducing Chang Ray Lee, the author of Native Speaker, and he won our Discover Great New Writers Award for 1995. Tonight, we're here to rediscover not just a great author, but a new edition of one of his most important works. I was going to introduce our moderator, but we do have a surprise guest, so it is my great pleasure to introduce Bill Murray.
I'm surprised also. I was hoping for more time while the moderator fumbled for words. I've been asked to read an excerpt from Huckleberry Finn, and the one that I'm going to read was originally published in Life on the Mississippi, but has been reinserted, correctly I guess, into Huckleberry Finn. Mark Twain, please hold your applause until we decide as a group whether or not he deserves applause. This is a scene between Huckleberry Finn and Jim. I've been in a storm here once before with Tom Sawyer and Joe Harper, Jim. It was a storm like this too last summer. We didn't know about this place, and so we got soaked. The lightning tore a big tree all to flinders. Why don't lightning cast a shadow, Jim? Well, I reckon it do, but I don't know. Well, it don't. I know. The sun does, and a candle does, but the lightning don't. Tom Sawyer says it don't, and it's so. Sure, child, I reckon you're mistaken about that. Give me the gun. I was going to see. So he stood up the gun in the door and held it. And when it lightened, the gun didn't cast any shadow. Jim says, well, that's mighty curious. That's uncommon curious. Now, they say that a ghost don't cast no shadow. Why is that, you reckon? Of course, the reason is that ghost is made out of lightning. Or else the lightning is made out of ghosts. But I don't know which it is. I wish I know which it is, Huck. Well, I do too, but I reckon there ain't no way to find out. Did you ever see a ghost, Jim? Has I ever seen a ghost? Well, I reckon I has. Oh, tell me about it, Jim. Tell me about it. The storms are ripping and a tearing and a carrying on so a body can hardly talk, but I reckon I'll try. Long time ago, when I was about 16-year-old, my young Miles William, just dead now, was a student in Doctor College in the village where we lived in. That college was a powerful, big brick building, 3 stories high, and stood all by herself in a big open place out to the edge of the village. Well, one night in the middle of winter, young Miles William, he told me to go to the college and go upstairs to the dissecting room on the 2nd floor and warm up a dead man that was there on the table and get him soft so he can cut him up. Oh, what for, Jim? I don't know. See if he can find something in him, maybe. Anyways, that's what he told me, and he told me to wait there till he comes. So I takes a lantern and starts out across the town. But it was a blowing and a sleeting and cold. There wasn't nobody stirring in the streets, and I could scarcely shovel on against the wind. It was most midnight and dreadful dark. I was mighty glad to get to the place. Child, I unlocked the door and went upstairs to the dissecting room. That room was 60 feet long and 25 foot wide, and all along the wall, on both sides, was the long black gowns hanging that the students wears when they's chopping up the dead people. Well, I goes swinging the lantern along, and the shadows of them gowns went spreading out and drawn in along the wall, and it scared me. It looked like they was swinging their hands to get warm. Well, I never looked at them no more, but it seemed like they was doing it behind my back just the same. There was a table about 40 foot long down the middle of the room with 4 dead people on it, laying on their backs and with their knees up and the sheets over them. You could see the shapes, you know, under the sheets. Well, Miles Williams, he told me to warm up the big man with the big black whiskers. So I uncovered one, and he didn't have no whiskers. But he had his eyes wide open, and I covered him up quick, I bet you. The next one was such a ghastly sight that I almost let the lantern drop. Well, I skipped one carcass and went for the last one. I raised up the sheet and I says, "All right, boss, you're the chap I was after." He had the black whiskers and he was a rattling big man and looked wicked like a pirate. He was naked. They all was. He was laying on round sticks, rollers. I took the sheet off of him and rolled him along, feet first, to the end of the table before the fireplace. His legs was apart and his knees was, you know, cocked up some. So when I uprighted him, you know, he got sat up there looking pretty natural, you know, with his feet out and his big toes sticking out like he was warming himself. I propped him up with the rollers, you know, and then I spread the sheet over his back and over his head to help warm him. And then when I was tying the corners under his chin, by jinx, he opened his eyes. I let go and stood off and looked at him, feeling mighty shaky. Well, he didn't look at nothing particular and didn't do nothing, so I know he was good and dead yet. But I just couldn't stand them eyes, you know. It made me feel all overish just to look at him. So I pulled up the sheet clear down over his face and under his chin and tied it hard. And then there he sat, all naked in front with his head like a big snowball and the sheet covering his back and falling down on the table behind. So there he sat with his legs spread out, but blame if he didn't look no better than what he did before. His head was so awful somehow. But them eyes was covered up, so I reckoned I let him stand at that and not try to improve him up no more. Well, I stood, you know, I stooped between his legs on the hearthstone and took the candle out of the lantern and held it in my hand so as to make more light. There were some embers in the fireplace, but the wood was, you know, all to the other side end of the room. Whilst I was stooping there, getting ready to go out to the wood, the candle flickered. And I thought, the old man moved his legs. It kind of made me shiver. I put out my hand and felt his leg that was poked along past my left jaw, and it was cold as ice. So I reckon he didn't move. Then I felt that leg what was poked past my right jaw, and it was powerful cold too. You see, I was stooping down right betwixt it. But pretty soon I thought I see his toes move. You know, they was just in front of me on both sides right here. I tell you, honey, I was getting uneasy. You see, that was a great big old rambling building and nobody but me in it. And that man over me with that sheet over his face and the wind a wailing round the place like spirits that was in trouble, and the sleet driving again the glass, and then the clock struck 12 in the village, and it was so far away, and the wind choked up the sound so that it was only sound like a moan, that's all. Well, things I was out in this. You know, what is going to become of me? And this fella moving his toes, I knows it, you know. I can see him move, and I can just feel them eyes of his and see that old dumpling head of his all done up in the sheet. And well, so just at that minute, down he comes, right astraddle my neck with his cold legs, and kicked the candle out. My, what did you do, Jim? Do? Well, I never done nothing, only I just got up and healed it in the dark. I wasn't going to wait to find out what he wanted. No, sir, I just split down the stairs and linked it home, a yelping every jump. What did Mars Williams say? He said I was a fool. He went there and found a dead man on the floor, all comfortable, and took him and chopped him up. Dod rot him, I wish I'd had a hack at him. What made him hop on to your neck, Jim? Well, Mars Williams said I didn't prop him up good with the rollers. I don't know. There weren't no way for a dead man to act no how. It might have scared some people to death. But Jim, he weren't rightly a ghost. He was only a dead man. Didn't you ever see a real sure enough ghost? Oh, you bet I have. Lots of them. Well, tell me about them, Jim. All right. I will. Sometime. But the storms are slacking up now, so we better go and tend to the lines and bait them again.